Welcome to the What If podcast with your hosts, Spencer Worth Davis and Ryan Copperrood.
Dude, I was watching this video today of a killer whale that it was in like this tank. It must have been at SeaWorld or something.
Whoa, my brain went somewhere else. I was like, damn, militarized orcas. They really are killer whales now. Shit.
And it swam up to the side
How
of it.
did it get inside?
Is the tank full of water? It swam up to like the edge of the tank, and it coughed up a fish.
Ooh.
Because there were a bunch of birds sitting there, and it waited until one of the birds got ballsy enough to try and eat the fish, and then it just chomped down on that bird, and it got the bird and the fish. Doubled up.
Is that like whale fishing? Is that what that is?
Yes. It went fishing for birds with fish as a whale.
Ooh, they squeaking now.
This is the What If podcast.
Yeah.
We're listening to some seal sounds. All the crazy shit you hear in the background are the sounds that seals make underwater.
What if seals sounded like UFO?
What if Antarctica is the weirdest goddamn place on the whole planet?
I think it might be, man. Or it's close.
It's not even close. It's the weirdest place on Earth by a lot.
All right, good. I'm fine with staking that claim in the ground because I've been weirded out for the past like few days about this shit.
What we're talking about Antarctica. What are some weird facts about Antarctica, Ryan?
All right, guys. So put your belts on. We're gonna go. Strap yourselves in.
These facts are gonna blow your pants off.
Keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle. We're about to get scientific and strange.
Inside the whale tank.
Inside the whale tank. And this time we're talking about military tanks, not SeaWorld tanks. So these are things that I learned in my course of just researching the basics of Antarctica.
Yep, give us your Antarctic book report.
All of which I did not know. Yes, this is my Antarctic book report.
There are a lot of things we don't know. Come on, you gotta be more specific.
This is my, all of these things I did not know. So first off, I had to check out size for Antarctica. Because I was like, I don't even know how big that is.
Pretty big.
And you see it, when we unfurl the map, you see it. It looks like it's like real big.
Maps, they always lie to us. Though. They make the U.S. too big. They make everything else too small.
Right.
They put shit closer together than it should be.
Yep, exactly.
A bunch of lying-ass liars.
Exactly. So the hard part about the size of Antarctica is that it's not the same ever.
Because it's partially made out of ice and such?
So it's constantly fluctuating, which I never knew. Basically,
so
Antarctica...
right now it's shrinking?
Well, through every year, it's growing and shrinking. Its total size is shrinking, like in the face of global warming.
But within that, it fluctuates?
Okay. Because of Antarctica's location on the globe, it has summer and winter, which is basically over the course of 1 month's period of time, it flips from being full darkness for 6 months of the year to full light for 6 months of the year.
Right.
Which
they
in
don't
its
have
own
time
right,
zones there.
I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense because everything's
it wouldn't make any
dead-ass center.
Wouldn't help you.
Right. But they... because it gets 6 months of darkness and 6 months of light, the continent shifts in size because when it's dark, it's colder. So the ice mass on top of the land mass that is Antarctica grows steadily out into the ocean, and then the sun shrinks it back down. So kind of crazy that it grows and fluctuates. If you were to get an average size for it, it's about the size, Antarctica is about the size of the United States and Mexico combined, or like twice the size of Australia, if that's more helpful to y'all.
It's slightly larger than Europe.
Yep, slightly larger than Europe is another good one for our UK and European folk.
It's also large as fuck. If that's a better point of reference for you,
it's bigger than I thought it was. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's real fucking big
for sure. But yeah, it actually like doubles in size in the winter months as compared to the summer months, which is pretty wild. So I had this dumb question: is Antarctica only ice? It's not. There is land mass.
Correct.
That is
they
Antarctica.
Got mountain ranges and volcanoes and stuff.
Fuck yeah, they do. However, for the vast majority, even though there are some like protruding landmass elements that you can see above the ice, for the most part, the actual landmass of Antarctica is covered by 1.5 miles deep of ice, and as deep in some places is 3 miles thick of ice.
Also, that sheet of ice is approximately 40 million years old.
Damn. Damn, that's so wild. This goes back to my theory from however long ago. I think it was when we were doing the apocalyptic episodes where I was like, one day when global warming kicks in, there's going to be some 20 million year old bug that's going to come out of the fucking ice when it melts down.
Well, they're trying to drill into Lake Vostok right now, which is a huge lake underneath the ice in Antarctica. It's roughly the size of Lake Ontario. And it's been covered by ice for millions of years. And they're pretty sure that things live in it, but they haven't had access to the surface in millions of years.
Cool, let's pull them out and introduce them to the population.
Right, what could go wrong?
Nothing at all. Not even a little bit of
also,
anything.
if there are aliens, that's absolutely where they are.
Well, we'll get there eventually. Y'all know we always do, but
sooner
we will
than
get
later,
there.
I would guess.
If knowing ourselves.
What's the coldest it's ever been on Antarctica?
The coldest it has ever been was in, I think it was documented in 1980. Shit, I didn't write the year down. I think it was in the early 80s.
Make it up. No one cares.
83, I'm pretty
Sounds
sure,
good.
but I'm not positive. Y'all don't
Year
quote
of our
me.
Lord.
I do. Year of our Lord. I do have the exact temperature though. It was 128.6 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, or negative 89.2 degrees Celsius.
For all our Scottish listeners.
For our Scottish folk.
Hey, we did a Patreon thing, but you're back and I'm back, and hello,
We're back.
we missed you
Everybody's
guys.
back, yeah.
We
Hopefully-
survived. Ryan didn't get his ass haunted or anything.
Yeah, I looked for them. There are a lot of old buildings. I was sure most of them were haunted based on how old everything in Edinburgh is.
I survived the entertaining dumpster fire that is Los Angeles. We're here.
I lived there for 2 years. I can co-sign that as a very exact.
It's great, and it's just a piece of shit all at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not what we're here for.
But yeah, we are back and we're in action, and we're talking about Antarctica today. Another potentially interesting thing or question that I had and needed answering was nobody lives there. There are people there, but there are no permanent residents of Antarctica.
I thought Chile had a little settlement of sorts.
I think
Am I wrong?
I think that is though a scientific base that cycles people out, but it's not.
Oh, so it's not the same people there, but it's a semi-permanent thing.
Yeah, and
Got it,
there are
got
a couple different semi-permanent ones on there, but it's not there's no one who has an electric bill there or lives there for
Right.
the future. The food sources are only brought in based on the missions that are occurring out there at any given time, etc. So there's not a grocery store, there's no commerce or anything there.
Not a lot of infrastructure.
Yeah, not a lot of infrastructure in literally the coldest place on the planet.
They do have one ATM though.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
They got a bar, at least one bar also.
That's
A
tight.
lot of booze on Antarctica, it turns out.
I bet
We're gonna
that
get
bar
to that later.
is there. I bet
Yeah.
that bar is lit.
Right?
It's all these people who are living in.
What else you gonna do?
Yeah, for sure. If you don't have a cocktail and dance to some shitty 80s music, you will probably go insane.
I was reading an article today of that interviewed a couple of people who had lived there for a couple of years at a time,
Sure.
doing research. Astrophysicists, because apparently it's real dark there when you don't have any buildings or anything for thousands of miles in every direction.
I bet the stars are amazing.
One of the women was saying not a lot of food comes in. It's mostly booze. We don't have AA meetings or anything, so no one's technically an alcoholic, but a lot of people could probably use them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it sounded, and I guess one of the fastest ways to get sent home, and the only reason people get sent off is that people are just drunk idiots.
And they make dangerous decisions.
One time 11 people got sent back at once because they all got drunk and beat the shit out of each other.
Oh Jesus. They're
Because also you're seeing the same 10 people every day for months at a time.
Right.
I hate you and I hate you and I hate you and I love this tequila and I'm going to punch the shit out of your face right now.
If Marsha shows me her warmer gloves one more time, I'm gonna fucking murder her.
I go live with the penguins.
I was also, I think part of the reason too why they probably boo people off for bad behavior. I was watching a documentary about Antarctica in prep for this episode, and they were talking about how extensive the training and they literally instruct you how to put on your outerwear in a way that is safe, and all the things you need to do if you're out in one of their a lot of their vehicles are the crawler vehicles with the treads on them, so they can get from place to place.
Whale tanks.
What's that?
Whale tanks.
Whale tanks. Yeah. Yes, whale tanks. God, that's such a great image. I want an artist listener to send
illustrator friends.
Yeah,
you know what to do.
You know what to do. Give us a whale tank. But they're having these pretty heavy duty instructional sessions that tell you how to put your coat on, and if this happens, then this, and if you see a crack in the ice, you need to pull back and
run, bitch, run,
or you need to dig it out with like a shovel up to X amount of feet.
No, you don't. You need to get the fuck from that crack.
Yeah. I mean, I think just being there in general is, I would be in run mode the entire time.
You can't go there unless you've had your appendix and wisdom teeth removed.
No way. Mm-hmm. Because you 100% die if your appendix bursts?
Yeah. And they won't ship you out. Like, they'll just, yeah.
What's with the wisdom teeth one? There's no one's ever had a wisdom tooth emergency. I guess you could get them infected if they erupt. But even
if they're like...
But even that's like...
I think it would mostly just be pain, wouldn't it? You can't... I guess if you got an infection...
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But then couldn't they just pump you full of... They've got to have antibiotics or something, right?
I would imagine. I imagine they have a heavy store of them in case somebody gets a sinus infection.
Sometimes it can be months at a time, though, before you can leave.
Yeah. Oh, right. I guess.
So
I can see with an appendicitis, because if your appendix ruptures
that goes
within
quickly.
72 hours, you could have whatever they call that when your blood's like poisonous or whatever at a certain point. I don't know.
Lupus.
I don't think that's it at all.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. I guess a tooth infection maybe could get out of hand if untreated and cause it's close to your brain. That's probably bad.
I guess.
I don't know how that works. Not scientists on the What If podcast, as you guys have reminded us time and time again.
By now, yes. Someone will send us an
Save your emails. We know we're dumb.
No.
Just Google it.
Actually, don't save your emails. Someone tell us why your wisdom teeth have to be removed before.
And because like 30 people have hit me up asking what the Heaven's Gate podcast is called.
Oh, yeah, we did have a bunch of people yell about that.
It's called Heaven's Gate. And I don't mean to be rude, but
maybe people thought it was Heaven's Gate was like, because Heaven's Gate was also the name of the cult. So they were like, oh, there's a podcast about Heaven's Gate. What's the podcast?
Right. A lot of people keep emailing me or tweeting me, hey, what's the name of that Heaven's Gate podcast? If you literally, instead of typing that into an email to hi@whatifpodcast,
type it into Google.
It would
Google
be the first result. But it's just called Heaven's Gate. It's heavensgate.show is their website. They're on Stitcher and iTunes. And I don't know why we're doing free promo for another show right now. Back to Antarctica.
Any other random facts about Antarctica?
I got tons.
You got plethoras? Then let's keep talking about it, because we're going to get into stories about Antarctica, but I feel like the facts are important.
We need to establish just how fucking weird it is.
Yes,
100%. The warmest it's ever been on Antarctica. You want to guess? If you don't already know.
No, I don't want to guess. I want you to tell me.
I will not participate in this stupid-ass game that you're proposing. 58.2 degrees Fahrenheit is the warmest it has ever been on the entire continent.
If it's not a showcase showdown, I'm not guessing numbers. 58? No, 52.8.
58.2.
58.2. That...
It's not very warm.
Not very warm? What do you mean?
That's the warmest it's ever been on the whole continent.
Yeah, but that's almost 60 degrees. We wear shorts in Minnesota.
Yes. 58 is almost 60.
I'm just saying, we wear shorts in this city when it gets to 58 degrees.
I'm just saying, for that to be an all-time record high.
And a record high for your continent is kind of crazy, yeah. I agree.
If North America had only ever been 58 degrees.
There would be about like a third as many people here.
It'd be entirely seals and penguins. No polar bears. That's the Arctic.
Yeah. Isn't like the only animals they have that are not in the water, well, I guess penguins live a lot of their lives in the water too, but isn't it like the only...
Not a lot, because then they get eaten by seals if they go in there.
Sure, okay. But they do some like fishing.
They go in there to fish and then get the fuck out before they get their heads chomped off.
Yeah, but I mean, I think as far as I could tell, the only creatures that live on land in Antarctica are penguins.
There's one insect that's native.
What?
Yeah.
A native insect to Antarctica?
I can't remember the name of it. But it's not an ant, because that's the only place on Earth that ants are not found.
I have to imagine if it gets to, like, what can survive any temperature that is 100 degrees below zero?
Cockroaches? I don't know.
I mean, probably.
Or they burrow. You know what I mean?
But down to what?
Underground?
I know, but it can't be much colder in the ice.
Well, no, I'm saying into the actual Earth, not through the ice.
Yeah, you just got a ways to go to get into the Earth, is all I'm saying.
Not on the whole continent, though.
Not on the whole
whole
continent.
thing's not covered with ice all the time.
But isn't everything else just rock? It's not like earthen.
I don't know. I haven't been there.
That was that. Most have not. Most have not. That's what I found when it seems like everything else is basically rock because it's been cold for basically
millions of years
ever. So there's no like
not true. Not true. There used to be dinosaurs there millions of years ago. It used to be warm.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that too.
Yeah. 90% of all fresh water on the planet Earth is on the continent of Antarctica.
I read 70, but it's a lot.
Numbers are numbers, bro.
Numbers are numbers.
We get them wrong all the time.
It's probably 70. It probably started at 90, and it's probably 70 now that global warming has melted a significant chunk of Antarctica.
Sure. It wasn't discovered until 1820.
Wait. We just didn't know that there was a continent.
It was a rumor until 1820. They're like, we think there's something over there. We've heard stories that there's something over there. No one actually saw it until 1820.
Damn, that's so awesome.
No one set foot on it until the 1890s. It's only been 120 some years since somebody stepped on Antarctica.
We are going to find some wild shit on that continent when it starts to melt.
Yes, like when we drill into that lake.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Dogs are banned from Antarctica.
Big move.
They got viruses and disease and shit, and they're not native.
They're good dogs, Spencer.
I'm sure they are, but we got tanks. We don't need them.
We got tanks. Well, for that matter, then I would imagine that any animal species that is not native to Antarctica is probably not allowed, right?
Well, except humans, because we make the rules about such things.
Well, right. And we generally don't refer to ourselves as animals.
Right. But we totally are.
We
used to bring dogs with us to pull us around on sleds and stuff. And then we're like, oh, they're giving the weird little bugs diseases. We should leave.
Got it.
Fuck those dogs. Stay home.
So when 14 huskies shit their way across the continent,
It does weird things to the native bugs.
Bacteria, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay.
The largest iceberg was roughly that broke loose from the larger ice shelf or whatever it's called, was roughly the size of Jamaica.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big ice cube.
What else
That's
I got?
a big old fashioned you could make.
True. Last one. The loss of ice from West Antarctica between 2009 and 2012 caused a dip in the gravity field over the region, according to the ESA, which is the European Space Agency. Apparently, melting billions of tons of ice year after year has some implications.
Yeah.
Which I don't really understand, because wouldn't the mass be the same, whether it's ice or water?
Yes.
It just got redistributed locationally.
Well, this is a very interesting segue into one of my favorite stories I found.
Yes! We do this.
We do this. So I think...
Take it away.
So I think now that gravity has been introduced to the conversation, it's probably a good time to
play some John Mayer.
To play some Gravity. That's as much as we can say of that song.
That's as much of it as I know, so it's
or
perfect.
we're getting sued.
Did I tell you I met one of the dudes from the Black Eyed Peas the other night, by the way?
You did.
Oh, yeah, that was on the...
that was on a Patreon
that was for
episode.
the 32 people that listen to us on Patreon.
Patreon.com/whatifpodcast. You can get another episode of the show every week that is not this episode. That means double the what if.
Well, then, fuck it. I won't tell that story again. That was an exclusive. Carry on about gravity.
If you want to hear about Spencer hanging out with the Black Eyed Peas, go to patreon.com/whatifpodcast and you can hear the story that he did tell me.
Damn, we're good at this. Keep talking about gravity.
We're talking about gravity, so I think it's time to bring up the there's a couple names for it. We're gonna call it the Wilkes landmass concentration, which is also sometimes known as the
John Wilkes Booth.
John Wilkes Booth was not a participant. It is also known as the Wilkes Land gravitational anomaly.
That sounds like a Secure Team 10 video.
Jump. Funny enough, there actually is a Secure Team 10 video about this.
I started reading,
But it is a real thing,
I started
thankfully.
reading some article today, and then I saw that all of the photos in said article were screen grabs from Secure Team 10
And you
videos.
just immediately clicked off.
Yeah, except I'd already spent 3 or 4 minutes on it, and I was real irritated.
Heck.
That's understandable.
Dog Source is nice and loud today.
I was like coming in pretty hot in the headphones in the studio today.
Heck.
right in your ear.
Ooh. So yes, there's a Secure Team 10 video about this, but the anomaly, the gravitational anomaly in Antarctica is itself real, and it's pretty interesting. In 2000 in the early 2000s, a research group from the Ohio State University, they went down on a scientific expedition, as is most of the expeditions to Antarctica in the early 2000s, and they came back and gave a presentation at a conference in 2006 that, based on the readings that they found in the scientific discovery expedition they went on, as well as combined with information from NASA's GRACE satellites, GRACE, don't know what it stands for. Bet you it's gravity something, because what they do is they're designed to fly around the planet and identify gravitational anomalies on the Earth.
Gravitational, real-time anomaly, catcher, everything.
Catching everything. Catching with an apostrophe after the end, no G. Catching everything.
Humanity is actually...
Oh! Jesus Christ. Scared me. I'm sorry.
So what happens when we have the machine turned up to like 38? Can you turn it down a little bit?
I labeled my samples wrong too. And I thought I was going to play Hannibal Buress saying sometimes it's not your night. And then Mason started just screaming David Icke quotes into my ear.
Oh man.
I'm going to take a break.
Maybe that's more fun to not name the pads. And so it's like sound effect roulette.
My mistake. However.
Carry on. Please.
However.
Please.
The GRACE satellites basically told them that there is in fact a gravitational anomaly over the continent of Antarctica. And it's in the area that's called Wilkes Land because there isn't any actual like provinces or states or designated real areas. They're generally just named after like first explorers who explored certain regions of Antarctica.
Right, and John Wilkes Booth was the first one to find this area?
Yes,
yeah.
John Wilkes Booth.
In 1820?
This is where he ran to escape after he murdered Abraham Lincoln.
In 1820.
In 1820. And basically what they found is that there was a gravitational anomaly that was appeared to be, based on the GRACE satellite information, roughly 300 kilometers wide in a circular circumference that has a spike in gravitational pull. And the way that it's explained is generally that the satellites dip lower over these areas, and if they fly it around enough times in the same sort of pinpointed spot, they can figure out where the dip happens and why. So not why, but where, generally speaking, it does.
Does that mean that there's something really, really dense there?
Yes.
Okay.
Generally speaking, it does. So what GRACE does is it looks for these anomalies, and depending on where it's found, they can make different sort of suppositions around what is causing it.
Where the various secret underground UFO bases are?
Well, we're kind of getting there.
Okay.
But it's also often used for volcanic activity, for unknown volcanoes, or to predict volcanic activity. And the reason is because the material that's closer to Earth's core in the lower mantles, as it bubbles up to the Earth, is actually denser. So as it makes its way to Earth's surface, it changes the gravitational pull of certain vicinities on the Earth's surface.
Because denser material is being pushed up to the surface?
Pushed to the surface, exactly.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Imagine that. So another very interesting thing about the Wilkes Land gravitational anomaly is that because it is a 300-kilometer circle and...
That's a big volcano.
So it's actually...
That's a big UFO.
It's actually theorized that it is neither of those things, because a big thing that they look for as well, especially on Antarctica, is they use radar planes to fly over to figure out what the actual landmass looks like underneath the ice mass, because radar reacts differently to the rock and the landmass. So they fly planes over that shoot radar down to go what's below the ice shelf if the ice shelf were to be entirely melted. There's actually some pretty cool animations online that NASA's put together with the radar information they have, where you can see what Antarctica would actually look like were there to be no ice at all over it, which is pretty fascinating.
It's just one big floating saucer.
Yeah, it's the flying saucer. It's a shitload of rock and it's all pieced together. But what they've found through the radar images is that there's actually a larger ring around the Wilkes Land gravitational anomaly that looks like an impact crater. And the impact crater itself, they've measured to be 480 kilometers wide.
Damn!
Which is 300 miles around wide.
Heck.
Which equates to an impact crater roughly the size of the state of Wisconsin.
What?
And
what if what if an asteroid the size or a meteor the size of Wisconsin hit Wisconsin?
Whoa.
Fuck! I quit.
The universe
Just
is
in general, I quit the podcast.
the universe is getting back at you for being like, oh shit, we do this earlier. We do not do this. We do not do this.
Absolutely not. This is just
Even
Bush League from top to bottom.
Even
over
though we
here.
do this twice a week for like a year. Well, 3 times a week some weeks.
We are still a piece of garbage.
For whatever it's worth, a 300-mile wide / around crater the size of Wisconsin would be 2.5 to 3 times larger than the Chicxulub crater, which I think I'm pronouncing wrong, but that is the crater in Mexico that scientists and archaeologists believe was responsible for the mass extinction of the dinosaurs.
While we're talking pronunciation, it's pronounced Wisconsin, by the way.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, rhymes with mansion.
Thanks. Thanks, T-Pain.
You're welcome.
So the unfortunate part about this is we can't go down and see the impact crater because it's covered with 1.5 miles of ice.
Yeah, we just gotta wait a while.
But they literally
That'll be
can't
underwater.
even drill down to see if there's proof of an impact. But the cool or the interesting thing about the volcanic thing that we were talking about with the density and the gravity is what they believe is when a meteor hits the surface of the planet that is that large, it actually creates such a disruption in the mantle below that it churns the dense material in the mantle and brings up a wide expanse of denser material in the location of the impact. It's also an expansion in Wisconsin. It's also theorized that depending on what a meteor is made of, it could also be bringing denser material from another location into that location as well.
There are lots of meteors on Antarctica. The majority of those found on Earth are found on Antarctica.
Yeah,
probably
which is
'cause
pretty
there's
wild.
Well, probably because there's no stuff there and it's really big.
I guess there's that.
You don't have to look through much to find a meteor if it lands on Antarctica.
If it lands on it, yeah. But this one, because it's, I think it was something like 40 million years ago that they think it hit, or 65, or I don't know. It was a long fucking time ago.
Well, the ice sheet is 40 million years old. So
Okay, so it was pre-ice
more than
sheet. But yeah, so that's the anomaly of Wilkes Land.
That's quite anomalous.
It's quite anomalous. It definitely also led me to the list of. Let me pull it up here.
Yes.
It led me to the list of impact craters on Earth ranked by size.
Oh, I thought you were just going to start listing other Antarctic anomalies.
No, God, I wish. I know there are many.
Reddit.com/r/Antarctic anomalies, by the way.
Oh, that's a real thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great job.
Most of it's just absolute garbage, but it's really entertaining.
Great job, internet. But yeah, it's kind of trippy when you actually look at the list of how many places on Earth have been hit and left insanely large impact craters.
Places, I would guess. We've been around a long time.
We've been around
There's
a long
lot of shit
time.
flying around out there.
Yeah, there's up to there's like 60 or so that have impact craters that are 20 kilometers wide or greater.
That's pretty big. How many Wisconsin-sized ones are there?
Only a couple. Actually, Wisconsin is the Wisconsin-sized one would be if we were able to prove it, like if the ice sheet were to melt and we were able to measure it and prove that it was in fact an impact crater, it would far and away be the largest one in the history of the planet, which is the kind of interesting part as well.
Damn.
The largest one that we have right now is in South Africa with a diameter of 300 kilometers. So the supposed one on the Antarctic ice shelf would be 180 kilometers bigger than the biggest one we've ever actually been able to measure.
Whew.
Yeah, man.
How weird are you trying to get in the next half hour or so?
Well, I've got some weirdness on deck.
I have not. For once, I think I have the less weird of the two of our stories. Our content for today.
Sure.
Do you want me to go next with a murder mystery in the Antarctic?
Yeah, let's do a murder mystery, and then we'll take a break, and then I'll take us off the deep end after we come back from the break.
Beautiful.
Wait,
so I'm telling a story first, then we're taking a break?
Yes, sir.
In this non-existent break world of breaks that we don't need?
No, we're going to need a break.
Okay. Rodney Marks is a gentleman who lived in Antarctica for a while. He was a 32-year-old Australian astrophysicist.
Unsolved mysteries.
Yeah. Unresolved Mysteries subreddit, also great, by the way, if you're looking for weird shit on Reddit.
Big hitter.
Mm-hmm. In May of 2000, he was in Antarctica looking at stars and such. Whatever you do as an astrophysicist, we definitely wouldn't know.
We make that shit up all the time.
Sure do, and then you guys correct us. On the morning of May 12th of 2000, he had been there for almost 2 full years, and he was in the middle of his second winter in Antarctica, which sounds miserable. He was at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, and he went to the doctor because they had a medical center with one singular doctor on site because he was vomiting blood and having difficulty breathing.
Oh, bummer.
Sounds like a good time to maybe see a medical professional.
I would say so, yes. Also, sort of dicey chances of getting the help you need.
Right. As we discussed briefly earlier, you're not getting off the continent, and you've got limited access to things on the continent.
And one doctor, so better pray your timing doesn't suck too. If
Sorry, man, I'm a
is
podiatrist. You're gonna have to come back in 5 years.
Or someone else is also vomiting blood, and you're
you gotta wait in the waiting room,
bro. It's one guy.
Yikes.
What year was this again? I'm sorry, I missed
2000.
that. 2000.
So he's vomiting blood and he's having a hard time breathing, and he shows up to Dr. Robert Thompson and describes what's going on. He was described as being nervous, which and upset. Probably makes sense given the circumstances.
Yep.
And he was examined by Dr. Thompson, who noticed 2 needle marks on his arm, but didn't bring it up at the time because he's just a guy. He's just a doctor who doesn't sound like maybe the greatest doctor. He's just a dude. And he released him back to his room when it appeared that he had recovered a bit and was feeling better. But 2 more times later that day, Marks came back to see Dr. Thompson. The final time complaining that he was just in pain everywhere. Just all of his person was in pain.
He's like, look, man, you're going to have to be more specific. I'm a doctor.
Can't really help you when you just say that everything hurts and I'm puking blood.
Woof.
Yeah, no, it got real dicey.
I feel like at that point you're just like, all right, so what I want you to do is walk out this door, find the darkest spot you can find, walk towards it.
Aren't you supposed to walk towards the light in these circumstances?
Yeah, I'm saying the doctor's best advice to him is just walk till you can't walk anymore.
Well, his condition briefly got better, and he was conscious. He was communicating with people, but by the end of the day, he had died.
Ugh.
His heart stopped, and Dr. Thompson was unable to resuscitate him. They didn't have a transport scheduled for 6 months.
You usually leave him outside, though, right?
So they put him on a sled and left him outside for 6 months because he was going to be preserved as long as nothing tried to eat him.
Which the penguins are not hanging around your expedition shop looking for human bodies to consume. Gross!
Yeah. His death was originally ruled, or it was they determined that it was due to natural causes, which seems weird because he was 32 years old.
Yeah,
most people don't just...
What natural cause makes your entire body hurt and makes you vomit blood?
Also, you don't just normally die at 32 without some sort of external force of some kind.
Also, do you think the doctor might be like, he did have a couple weird needle marks, but like,
right?
It was probably natural.
Well, and here's my question about that. If you didn't inject him, being the only doctor on site,
it was fucking Dracula, bro.
Who did?
Dracula, bro.
Like, did he?
He sucked his blood.
Why? It's also this very close to your Foghorn Leghorn impression. I say he sucked his blood.
I said, I want to suck your blood, son.
Jesus.
Can we get an illustration of Foghorn Leghorn as Dracula for Halloween as well?
Absolutely
From
not.
an illustrator friend? All right, type.
Dr. Thompson said that there was nothing to suggest that his death was related to his work, the environment at the South Pole, or to any toxic or infectious agent. So basically he said, I don't have a fucking clue what killed this man.
And also,
it works better when you point the microphone at your face.
It fell over. And also it kind of seems like all of those things from a doctor are like, you're all good. Like, everyone else here is going to be fine.
Oh, right.
Like, it is not an infectious disease that is going to get the rest of you.
Right.
So everybody chill until the transport comes to take this dude away.
That hole we drilled into the 40 million year old ice didn't unleash some alien
Did
Ebola.
not cause this.
Yeah, you guys are cool. 6 months later, he was flown. Yeah, alien Ebola did it for you?
No, I just had what was the guy's name?
With a doctor or
the guy who died?
Rodney Marks.
Rodney
Marks.
I just had a very awkward, like, a vision of a very awkward conversation that would be something like, all right, I think everybody's good. I just have a really awkward question for the group. Has anyone recently had sex with Rodney? If yes, I'm going to need to ask you a few questions. If you start throwing up blood, we have a problem.
Is your penis tiny, and did you attempt to penetrate his arm? Because I don't know where these marks came from. 6 months later, they flew Rodney back to New Zealand, where they performed an actual autopsy. And it was determined...
that's crazy that you can't do that, I suppose. I mean, you're looking for preservation. You might not have anyone even qualified to do so.
Right. I don't know what sort of doctor or how qualified Dr. Thompson was.
Right.
Also, I don't know what their facilities were like, if they even had, if it was basically like military style,
pretty
or
minimal,
if you had,
right.
yeah. I mean, there aren't any permanent structures even on it. This is really really a top 10 episode for me right now. They flew him back to New Zealand and they did an autopsy, and it was determined that he died from methanol poisoning, which, if you're not familiar, it's a type of alcohol not intended for drinking, but usually used in industrial or automotive settings.
Yikes.
It's found in things like antifreeze or varnish, or a lot of the chemicals and liquids that are in copiers.
Whoa.
So he had somehow consumed a lethal amount of methanol.
Rodney was like, the bottle says it's got alcohol in it, and I'm bored as fuck.
So that is one of the theories.
That he shot up some methanol because he was trying to get drunk.
So there's been, for years now, there's been a New Zealand police officer named Grant Wormald.
Cute.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Who has been investigating what he thinks was the first murder on Antarctica. And according to him, his investigation has been hampered by the National Science Foundation, the U.S. National Science Foundation, and Raytheon Polar Services, which I think is the organization that he was working with at the time, who have not been cooperative in providing him with information.
Whoa, that's kind of a trip.
He said, quote, despite numerous requests, I am not entirely satisfied that all relevant information and reports have been disclosed to the New Zealand police or to the coroner.
Interesting.
We got to get Dave Politis on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, the New Zealand police, or this one officer at least, thinks that he was somehow poisoned and killed. And that because of the setting, because of the circumstances, that it wasn't discovered until months later, and that then his investigation was intentionally derailed so that that information wouldn't come to light.
Huh.
Some of the more official, so to speak, explanations include that Rodney Marks might have committed suicide.
Okay.
Which to me doesn't make a lot of sense because if you're going to ingest, so he was a scientist, he probably knew that methanol would kill you if ingested. It doesn't take a lot. I looked up today. The average adult male would only need 3 to 4 ounces to be a lethal amount.
Okay.
So I guess if you were going to kill yourself and that was available, it might be a fairly efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
However, you probably wouldn't go to the doctor 3 times.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And if you did, you would probably tell him what you had done so you could get help about it.
Right.
If you had drank many ounces of methanol and
regretted it later.
And then regretted it, yeah, then you would think you would say to the doctor, hey,
I need you to make me throw up.
This is what I did. Right. Can you help me? Instead of just saying like, my shit hurts.
Yeah. Maybe he just wanted pain meds to go out easier or something.
That seems unlikely to me.
Yeah, I'm with it.
He also was with his fiance on this base that they were stationed at, who had recently been reassigned there just to be with him. So if he were going to kill himself, the timing also seems pretty weird.
Yeah.
And there was no other indication that he was, I mean, not that there is always, but that he was depressed or suicidal or anything. Another suggestion is that he purposely drank the alcohol or the methanol alcohol in an attempt to become intoxicated, which again seems pretty unlikely to me. Being a scientist, you would think he would know that like that shit gonna kill me.
Right.
And also they had an abundance of alcohol at the base.
So like if you wanted to get real fucked up, you don't need to drink poison
easily
instead.
And for free, because they shipped pallets of booze at a time to this base where they were stationed.
Do you think there's any possibility he was doing it to try to like get sent home? Like that he was fucking tired of being there and he was like, I'm real sick. Like if I maybe maybe he thought if I drink
why a lethal amount then?
Well, I'm saying maybe he didn't know. Maybe he was like, I'll drink 1 ounce, and for him, maybe he was a little guy and that was enough to kill him, or I don't know.
Maybe. It also, I guess, is possible that he unintentionally drank it somehow.
Like found it somewhere.
Or that it was mislabeled, or he reached for the wrong... reached for his glass of actual booze and picked up a beaker of methanol instead. But again, then...
Oh, shit. Is that the poison or my gin and tonic?
Vodka or antifreeze? Which...
I'm going to flip a coin. Heads or
I'll
tails?
just drink both. It'll be fine.
All right.
But then you would think...
The alcohol will kill the alcohol.
You would know instantly... Some horrific logic. You would know instantly upon drinking it that, that was toner fluid. That wasn't my
This new Russian vodka is hot.
Right? Like you would know right away, and then you would communicate that to the doctor in one of the 3 trips that you made in that 12-hour period.
Right.
So
I did. Yeah. Did you consume anything weird today, Rodney? Well,
I was licking the copier for a while. Do you think that could be it? Like you would communicate that.
I've been eating paper for a snack today. Lot of ink on it.
It seems almost impossible that you would unintentionally consume that, A, to begin with, and then B, that you wouldn't then communicate that information to someone else.
Right. So then that leads it back around to the more likely thing is that he didn't intentionally or unintentionally consume anything of his own volition, and that something was introduced to his body without him knowing.
It makes the most sense because you wouldn't have any idea what was happening to you.
Yeah, but I also feel like if you're in Antarctica, the list of suspects of people who would murder someone, like if they found out, which again,
wait, who is they though?
If if there was suspicion from the almighty they that something nefarious had occurred, like they would.
There is from the New Zealand police, and he's saying he's not being given access to the information he needs.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I guess I'm just saying, like, you wouldn't do that. You're living in a city or in a tent or in a fucking exploration base with like 100 people, you know.
Well, right.
Like, suspicion is going to get cast on a very small group of people if you're like,
and it may have.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But we don't know
because they were not,
because that information was not released and there was not an investigation, and none of this even started until 6 months later.
Mm.
The first time New Zealand police even heard about it was 6 months after the fact. Well, even more. They didn't even have his body for 6 months, and then they had to do an autopsy, and then they had to try and figure it out and piece stuff back together.
Right.
The same people probably weren't even there. They don't have necessarily enough information, or there's no actual evidence because it happened across the world 6 months ago.
Right.
You can't necessarily pull people in to even question, much less charge anybody with anything.
Right.
And then the only people who may have information about it aren't giving it to you.
Is there any possibility that, like, somehow it was more naturally occurring? Like,
what, that the methanol somehow was?
Yeah, that it was, you know, how, like, methane bubbles up from some point. I don't know. Like, is there any way that you...
I'm not a chemist, but I don't think so. I don't think it would be... And even if it were somehow naturally occurring, he still would have had to ingest a significant amount of it somehow.
Right.
Without noticing.
Right.
Which I'm not even sure how if he would have had to consume 3 to 4 ounces somehow, how do you even do that without somebody noticing? If you are trying to poison someone, that's a lot.
Well, that's, if you're talking about consumption through the mouth versus through the bloodstream, that's different. But
he wouldn't have said, hey, I got injected with something when he went to the doctor?
But I'm saying he might not have known.
How would you not know?
What if you were unconscious? I don't know. You could give somebody a shot while they were asleep.
No, you wouldn't wake up while getting an injection.
I don't know.
Yeah, you would.
Maybe.
What?
I don't know.
You're being stabbed while you're sleeping and you're not going to wake up?
Maybe you just...
And then you're not going to be like, hey, my arm is sore and there's a hole in it when you wake up? And I bled on myself during the night?
Well, the doctor noticed there was 2 needle marks in his arm. How did he not?
Well, I'm assuming he did. And they were from something...
else?
More benign, yeah.
Maybe you just like hold a piece of Antarctic ice on his arm till it goes numb, and then you...
That wouldn't wake you up?
You just think it's the nightmare you've had every single night. You're like, fuck, I'm cold again. God, fuck, this sucks.
Also, I don't think you can inject 3 to 4 ounces of something.
No, but that's what I'm saying. An injection in the bloodstream...
a lethal dose would be smaller.
A lethal dose would be way smaller than if you were to eat it and put it in your stomach.
Sure.
That's crazy. So any outcome? No outcome? Just still...
They stopped investigating it. His family said eventually, like, we don't
want to do this anymore.
We don't want to keep pursuing this. He's dead, and we're not going to undo that.
Man.
And as of, I think, like 2008, they just stopped.
Did you stumble across, when you found the story or anything around it, have you seen anything around the number of people who have, like, died on or from or around Antarctica?
No. I know it's like a couple every year, though.
I was going to say, I would imagine
because the conditions are so brutal.
Right. And you're talking about like ships and diving and flying and like all these really fucked up conditions. Like I would imagine it's dangerous enough to...
There's never officially been a murder, though.
Yeah.
Damn. In 1819, 644 people died because a ship sank.
Wow. That'll do it.
Lists of disasters in Antarctica by death toll.
Oof.
Could there be a darker Wikipedia article?
Jesus, Wikipedia.
Okay, so the San Telmo was a ship that sank in 1819, which must have been the ship that also discovered Antarctica. And 644 people died.
Oof.
There was a flight that crashed into a mountain on Antarctica, and 257 people died. So lots of aircraft and ship deaths. In the
I would
last
imagine even the transport alone is dangerous enough.
in the last 10 years, it looks like there have been less than 5.
Okay. Yeah, and I would imagine that makes sense too, that it's gotten safer over time.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to go back to a more dangerous and strange time, and we're going to fully derail
To
things.
the year 2000.
Yeah, far before the year 2000,
All
actually. Not. I guess I shouldn't say fully derail, because I want to talk about things that are real, but things that get real weird after they start being real. When keeping it real goes cold.
Take it away, Seal Sounds.
Hey everybody, it's Ryan and Spencer. We just wanted to pop in quick on the break here to ask you guys a favor. And no, it is not the survey. We are done with the survey. We've been done with the survey. For those of y'all who filled out the survey, thank you for filling out the survey.
We got our results today. I apologize to the 8 of you that have PhDs and have to listen to us on a weekly basis, get everything that could possibly be factual wrong.
That number is going to just keep going down as they're like, damn, these guys are dumb. No, but we do have a favor to ask you, and that is just to, if you've enjoyed any episode of the What If podcast, this one or any of the 50 more or any of the Patreon episodes, if you could do us one huge favor, that would be to share the show with a friend. We keep getting new listeners every week and new people.
Nobody cares.
New people getting introduced to the show. And
also, a long time ago, we promised that if we got to 100 ratings on iTunes, we'd do a Facebook Live episode where we answer questions and stuff. We're at like 98 or 99, and I assumed that was a number that we would never get to when I agreed to do that, but now here we are. So if 2 of you, literally 1 or 2 of you, go review us on iTunes, we're going to have to give you a Facebook Live episode, and you can see our dumb faces get a bunch of seal facts wrong. So if that's appealing to you at all.
Thank y'all who have already done that and have already shared it. Keep doing it if you can. And thank you guys for all your support. We love you. We wouldn't be doing this if you weren't on the other end of this microphone. So thanks a lot. Let's get back to the show. Well.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
You know what's funny?
A lot of stuff.
We've done a lot of episodes of this show, including the radio show, including the extra Patreon episodes. And the more that we do this show, the more that I realize how many of the topics we talk about on this show somehow find their way back to 2 things. And one of those things is Nazis and the other one is UFOs.
Oh, well, I'm down with half of that equation.
You're not welcome. No one's welcome for the first part. Antarctica has ties,
dude, of course.
to both.
Of course it does.
So
what better place to hide aliens than on an uninhabited giant continent?
Yes. Tell me what you know about the New Swabia expedition.
That was the thing where the Nazis tried to claim part of Antarctica as Nazi land?
Basically, yes. So
no country officially owns any part of Antarctica, correct?
Not as far as I'm aware, no.
Remember when I suggested that we do an episode about a word that I apparently can't pronounce?
What?
I've said Antarctica wrong about 13 times on this episode.
Did you just say it wrong again? I
think so.
I just blew by it.
Yeah, I'm just...
I was looking at my show notes.
Hey Ryan, we should do an episode about anteaters.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, I don't know much about it other than that in the 40s the Nazis seemed to be obsessed with getting bases set up on Antarctica.
Yeah, that is more or less
30s, I guess.
I'll make it a quick version of that, but essentially the stated purpose of this is known as the Third German Antarctic Expedition, which was from 1938 to 1939. The stated purpose was to find an area in Antarctica to set up a German whaling station because they were importing like hundreds of thousands of tons of whale oil into the country every year for
It's not very nice.
margarine and lamp oil. And I know it's kind of a dick move.
How fucking crazy is it that we're like, yeah, it's kind of dark. You know, it'd be cool.
If we liquefied some whales.
Right?
Yeah, no, it's fucked up.
We're gonna make a lamp where you have to burn the insides of a whale
Totally.
just so you can read a book after 9 p.m.
Totally.
Jesus, humans
Yeah.
are just
the
Oh,
worst.
hi. Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, we are still a piece of garbage. Absolutely. Another stated goal of the New Swabia expedition was to potentially scout for locations to add a German naval base to Antarctica.
Okay.
So on the 17th of December in 1938, the quote-unquote New Swabia expedition left Hamburg.
Hamburg.
And
We have some German listeners these days. I don't want to offend them.
I definitely don't want to offend them.
Hamburg.
Basically, they brought, it was sort of like a small aircraft carrier down to Antarctica to scout. It was a secret expedition at the time. There was 35 people on the ship, and basically the ship that they were on was called the MS Schwabenland.
Ooh.
So they named the area that they landed in Antarctica New Schwabenland.
We could get our resident German language expert in here if you want.
Last time we did that, it was not well received.
Yeah, she kind of hates this
It was
show.
not super well received.
So wait, what came first, the UFO or the U-boat?
What?
Were they going down there to find the UFOs? Or
Oh,
were
you're
they-
getting ahead of me, bro. You're
Oh,
getting
I'm
ahead of
sorry.
me.
I'm sorry.
No.
Carry on.
Their intention and stated purpose was what I said was naval base, whale oil. They showed up, did a bunch of flying around, taking a bunch of pictures, trying to figure shit out. They put up a bunch of swastika flags, like "What's up? The Nazis are here. Nazis in the building." I guess was their statement as they landed on Antarctica. And that's sort of the extent of what we know about the New Schwabian expedition.
I bet it's not though, depending on which .blogspot person you ask about it.
Yeah, buddy. So keep the third German Antarctic expedition in your mind from 1938 to 1939. Fast forward 7 or 8 years to the United States to Operation Highjump.
Okay.
So we talked about Highjump on, was that a Patreon episode?
Yeah, I think it was the one where we talked about the polar men and the
Yes. Antarctic Bigfoot.
I think that was a Patreon thing, not a regular thing.
Okay, so we talked about this on the Patreon briefly, but not thoroughly. Patreon.com/whatapodcast if you want to get 2 episodes a week. If you didn't hear that earlier.
already did that.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Tell your story.
So Operation Highjump was a part of the U.S. Navy Antarctic Developments Program.
Okay.
And it ran from 1946 to 1947. Where Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
What's a rear admiral?
You know what? It's a great question.
Okay. It's a funny name, whatever it means.
Yeah, 100%. 100% a
Carry
funny
on.
name. Led what was known as Task Force 68 to Antarctica.
Okay.
The Operation Highjump and Task Force 68's stated objectives from a U.S. Navy report were to train personnel and test equipment in cold conditions. I'm
Seems
reading,
like the right location for that.
I'm reading directly at this point. Consolidating and extending the United States sovereignty over the largest practicable area of the Antarctic continent.
See, I'm confused about that though, because I thought there are treaties saying that we can't own Antarctica and use it for military and industrial things.
Yeah, but those
those weren't in place yet?
I don't know when those happened.
Okay. It must have been later, I guess.
My guess would be it was a little bit like the moon at the time, where it was like, yeah, well, what if we get here first? Maybe you have to fucking deal with it, kind of thing.
Fuck with us, we here now.
We here now, yeah. Fuck with us, we put a city up, and what are you gonna do about it?
Moon base.
Yeah, and there's some other things too that are equally benign as the first couple. Developing techniques for maintaining air bases on ice, amplifying existing stores of knowledge regarding electromagnetic propagation. Like, these are all the stated explanations for why Operation Highjump was going to Antarctica.
Okay.
However, Task Force 68 included 4,700 men, 13 naval ships, and 33 aircraft.
Jesus.
For a mission that ran from November of 1946 to March of 1947. So they mobilized almost 5,000 people.
Wait, for 4 months?
5, yeah. November, December, January, February, March.
Sure, yeah, depending on when in those. Yeah, okay.
So they mobilized 5,000 people and 50 vessels for 5 months for those stated purposes.
Heck.
It seems a little weird, right? Like, that doesn't seem like...
Well, I mean, fuck if I know, but yeah, it does seem weird. I don't know anything about how military anything works, especially not in the 40s. But
I don't either. And actually,
that's a whole lot of people.
We have a couple military listeners who've hit us up a couple times. Let me know if that sounds weird to you guys.
Even keeping 4,700 people alive for 5 months would require a lot of
supplies and refueling missions, and you're also talking about doing it in a really, really frigid area, right? Like, it's fucking harder just to do anything there. It's harder to eat.
Which was the point, correct?
Well, right, but I guess what I'm saying is it didn't seem like they were dipping their toes in to try some shit. They were like, we're going fucking whole hog with 5,000 people into this to try this shit out.
Right.
For not a very long period of time, not to like set up shop and go, we're going to stick around for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only so much you can do when you show up and you're getting chased away by UFOs.
Well, so Admiral Byrd in 1947, March 5th.
Is that Larry Legend?
Larry Legend?
A different bird.
Wait, what? Oh, Admiral Byrd. Larry Byrd?
It's like
is that a Larry Byrd
combination
reference?
David Robinson, Larry Byrd, Admiral Byrd.
Wow, you went out there, bro.
Wasn't worth it. Keep going.
You went for it. He was interviewed in a Chilean newspaper because South America turns out very close to Antarctica.
Yep, that's how geography works.
That's how geography works. Was interviewed by a reporter in a Chilean newspaper called El Mercurio. And I'm gonna read a direct quote from the newspaper article that was written about the Operation Highjump expedition.
Show us what you got.
He says, talking about the recently completed expedition, Byrd said that the most important result of his observations and discoveries is the potential effect that they have in relation to the security of the United States. Quote, the fantastic speed with which the world is shrinking is one of the most important lessons I learned during this recent Antarctic exploration. I want to warn my compatriots that the time has ended when we were able to take refuge in our isolation and rely on the certainty that the distances, the oceans, and the poles were a guarantee of safety. The Admiral further stated that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but it was a bitter reality that in case of a new war, the continental United States would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds.
This is considered a dick move.
Get it? Because he's a bird?
Yes.
Did he mean planes or flying objects of an unidentified origin?
The translation from the Chilean newspaper says, would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds.
But like airplane speeds or like space alien speeds?
He did not clarify that, but there are some questions about that.
I wish he would have clarified that.
El Mercurio also brought up the fact that Operation Highjump during its time in Antarctica sustained an extended number of casualties that was unanticipated for the amount of actual combat they were designed to experience in their experience in Antarctica.
Were they abduction related?
No. If you really want to go down the .blogspot route,
That's of course. That's
There-
the only reason I started this podcast in the first place.
The .blogspot route will tell you that there are quotes from Operation Highjump attendees and other newspapers shortly after the fact talking about lights that were surfacing and surrounding them while they were making their pilgrimage through, like the ice cutters, the destroyers that do the ice cutting through Antarctica to make
so
way.
they were USOs.
Undersurface?
Unidentified submerged objects.
Submerged objects. But the submerged objects that also potentially flew after being submerged?
Well, once they break the surface, now then they're UFOs.
Then they become UFOs. Sure.
Before that, they're USOs.
Sure.
Right. Was Bird the guy who also said, or there's the like secret, who was the guy who had the secret journal who said he saw into the hollow earth when he flew over the pole? Is that also Bird?
That's one I do not know.
I think that might also be Larry Legend.
Got
whatever
it.
this guy's first name is. Andrew?
Richard E. Bird.
Dick Bird. Okay.
Dick Bird Jr. Dick Bird Jr.
His name's Dick Bird.
His name is totally Dick Bird. Dick Bird Jr.
I gotta take the rest of the podcast off. We've been talking about a man named Dick Bird for the last 15 minutes.
And we haven't even acknowledged it.
It's almost as good as Egbert.
Egbert. So, couple things. I'm going to derail us fully because we're at the time where we can.
Yeah, we're over time, man. You can say whatever wild shit you want to say right now. We gave the people an hour of somewhat coherent podcast. You say you talk your shit.
All right, so I'm about to talk my shit. The incoherent suspicion, and actually, I kind of get this and kind of think this is potentially like a pretty real thing.
Show me what you got.
Basically, the U.S. learned of the German Antarctic expedition from 1938 and 1939, coming to the close of World War II. And basically, the theory goes, we were not necessarily sure that whatever they had done with the new Schwabian experiments to get down there and set up a naval base was not successful. And so there was a possibility. You can read about the number of SS soldiers and German soldiers that they say were missing at the end of World War II. And even factoring in death tolls, etc., there were people who were skeptical of like SS that maybe had made it into other worlds, and there's the whole
Argentina thing,
paperclip and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. But World War II having ended in 1945, and us learning at the end of World War II that Germany was making multiple pushes into potentially setting up naval bases on Antarctica, a lot of people believe that Operation Highjump was the U.S. going, there's a lot of people that we can't account for and we can't find. And the war is done, and we know that they have at least made some expeditions down there, but we don't know how many. So we're going to send 5,000 fucking people and 50 ships and planes.
Is going to be a fight.
Because we don't know what's in Antarctica because we haven't done a whole lot of exploring. So we're going to send a fuckload of people. They took 70,000 aerial photographs during Project Highjump, launching airplanes off of aircraft carriers and destroyers and shit, and setting up shop for those 5 months. And a lot of people say it was only 5 months long because the entire purpose was, is there an additional Nazi base on Antarctica that we're not aware of? We're going to send 5,000 people down there to go do an exhaustive, wipe it out, or do an exhaustive search of the continent to potentially see if there are a remainder of people at some point.
I guess that makes sense.
Also, there are stated quotes from German generals that said something like, we have a Shangri-La of bases that is unattainable or it was something like unreachable by the rest of the world. And a lot of people suppose that it was a U-boat only accessible base.
Goes back to the weird polar men story we were talking about, man, that they had a base under the ice shelf on Antarctica that you could only access by U-boat.
Yep. And there are theories that the new Swabia thing was, on the surface they only sent 35 people, but via U-boat they may have sent a lot more to try to get underneath Antarctica and hollow out an area where they could hang out.
Can you imagine being at a point in your life where living on Antarctica with entirely Nazis sounds like the right move?
Sounds like the good thing to do.
What the fuck?
Yeah, man. So anyway, that's kind of where the rabbit hole will lead you. And the cool thing about it, or I guess the interesting thing about it,
The rabbit hole will also lead you to battles with UFOs if you look in the right places.
yes. I guess if you want to go one step further down the rabbit hole, it is that the U-boat base was also on Antarctica, was also where the Nazis were developing flying saucer-esque ships, and that Operation Highjump's casualties were caused by German UFOs that were flying saucers that attacked us, and that we also eventually wiped that base out before we came back in March. And took some of those flying saucers in 1947.
Huh?
1947.
Yeah, Roswell?
1947. I'm saying if we were there in 1946, we were fighting German UFOs. We obtained some of their technology and we wiped out that base and brought it back to the United States in 1947. And that timing is...
The SEALs hijacked one and flew it to New Mexico?
Suspicious.
And that's why it crashed, because it wasn't designed to be piloted by SEAls?
Or everything was written in German because we were trying to figure out how to fly there.
SEAls can't read.
Yeah,
Right.
SEALs can't read German. Navy SEAls or Antarctic
I was
SEAls.
talking about the animals.
No, I know you were.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, anyway, the interesting thing about it is, like, you can go read about the new Swabia expedition, you can go read about Operation Highjump, and then you can follow that rabbit hole as far as you're willing to stomach some of the oddness. But there is some oddness there that in my perpetual skepticism, I'm like, that's pretty weird. But then there's some things where I'm like, that's a little far. But yeah, Antarctica, man, it's a fucking...
We covered like 3% of the oddities.
I know. It's
I would encourage anyone who's at all interested in any of the shit that we just talked about to go watch Encounters at the End of the World, documentary by Werner Herzog. You can find out more about the crazy seal sounds. You can find out more about the bowling alley with the one ATM and about the whale tanks and all kinds of cool shit that happens on Antarctica.
I still have not seen it. I'm gonna make it
film.
I'm making it a priority though, because it sounds fucking dope.
All right, we gotta go because I just bought Mario Odyssey and
dip.
I got better things to be doing than talking about Nazi UFO aliens on Antarctica piloted by SEALs.
Before we go, I just want to make it really clear: Nazis come up sometimes, and we fucking hate those guys.
Yeah,
so just in case you guys think that our bringing up their lore is any sort of endorsement, it super fucking isn't.
Okay.
All right, Spencer's gonna go play Mario. I'm gonna go drink beer, and we're gonna see you next week. We love you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
We'll be back next week with another episode of the What If Podcast. Learn more at www.whatifpodcast.com.